Hi, this is Brian Fogarty, and this is a video for Chapter 15 of the book Quantitative Social Science Data with our second edition. So, Chapter 15 is the last chapter in the book. This chapter is called Putting It All Together, where we try to kind of start with the data set and do a full run-through of it. Can never be a full run through. It's not, perfectly honest, but it kind of tries to connect a whole bunch of the stuff in the previous chapters all together for analyzing a data set. So we are going to look at data from the World Value Survey for Kenya. This was released in 2021, and it kind of covers all sorts of stuff that might fit within social science and appeals to a bunch of different fields, not just, say political science or sociology or economics or whatever, but really kind of crosses. So it's a good data set to look at for this book. Okay, so let's we're gonna get started here. This video is just really focused on reading the data in and doing some recoding. So the data is kind of beastly because what I have the approach that I have in the chapter is that we download the raw data. So I didn't do any cleaning of it or anything like that. We kind of go through like, okay, this is how you find it. Download it, save it, read it in, because in the real world and in the data wilds, you're going to encounter data like this that's not sort of pre-processed in some fashion. So it's good to kind of get our teeth into something that's real kind of ugly. Not that the data is poor quality; it's just for working with the data in a statistical program, specifically R here for us, it's sort of tricky. Okay, so I have created a R Markdown file and saved it. I'm going to run and set up the library path and the working directory. Okay, and then let's read this in. Okay, so this is I have it saved, or I saved it as a Excel file, just because it's how it was. The variables in there and the names and stuff like that are somewhat sensitive, I think, to saving it as a different kind of file format. So I just went with Excel. So I'm going to load the tidyverse package and also the read Excel package. So both those. Okay, and then I'm going to read this and I'm going to save it as an object that I'm going to call Kenya. And then I'm going to read XLSX. Okay, so that is the function. I save this data as Kenya underscore WVS for World Value Survey, and it's .xlsx. Okay, now the raw data, when I saved it at least, the variables, which are the column headers, are the questions. That's really not good for reading it into R, because you get these like crazy long names, right? And besides from it being like, oh, how do we handle this? We're gonna make mistakes trying to deal with it. So what we could do is use the name repair option that is part of XLSX here. And then instead of using the sort of built-in standard one like unique or universal, we're going to do something a little innovative with reading in, which we haven't done yet. we are going to read it in, and then for each column header, just include the first 7 symbols, letters, numbers, whatever, characters of some sort. So how we do that is we're going to do, so dot name pair equals, we're going to use tilde, and then we're going to use a function from the stringer package, which is part of tidyverse. We're going to do str underscore sub. All right. So this function, we can shorten the names of things. So in that, we're going to specify dot x, and doing that, that says apply it to all of the variables. And then you can see it, the yellow box here telling us what other options we have. We're going to say start equals 1, end equals 7. So what that does is that, again, it will just include the first 7 characters of the column headers. Okay, so how did I figure out, 1 to 7? I played around with it a bunch. Just did it to try to make it look nice. All right, and then the second thing we're going to do, which we haven't done before, is actually include another function here with reading the data in. I often don't like to do this just because I feel like it can get a little tricky. So a lot of times I like to read the data in and then deal with it after. But let's try this option. So we're going to do piping, and then we're going to, I'm going to move this up a little. We're going to use the select function. Now, if you remember, the select function is it's essentially it selects or subsets the variables in some way. In some way, we specify. Previously, what we did was say, okay, I want this handful of variables. Just keep those, or get rid of a handful of them. What we're going to do here is we're going to use select, but then we're also going to use this option starts with, which is from dplyr package, which is also part of tidyverse. So starts with, not start with, starts with, and then we're going to say Q, because some of the reason we're doing this is because there's some duplicate column headers if we just do the first 7 characters. But by putting Q, that specifies that we're talking about the questions that are being asked. Again, how do I figure this out? I played around with it. I looked through the code book, I looked through the data, and tried to find what worked. Okay. So I'm going to highlight this and run it. And we see up here we have 1,266 observations and 339 variables. That's still a lot of variables. All right. But the original file that at least I have saved has 488 variables or columns. So we did cut out a good amount just doing that. All right, so we've read this in. We're just going to keep a handful of them. I think, how many are we keeping? I think it's 8. Is that right? Nine. Okay, so 9. We're going to keep 9 for the chapter and the analysis we do throughout here. Okay, I'm going to save this as a new object that I'm going to call Kenya subset. Just because, when we're working with a real big data set, it's very likely we might mess something up. And so we could rerun the code and read it back in, but let's be a little more deliberate and just create like a subset of the data. Okay, so Kenya subset, the assignment operator, Kenya, and then I'm going to include the piping. And then the first thing we're going to do is rename our variables. Okay, so the first one I'm going to do is a variable that asks about satisfaction in the political system, which I'm going to name as polsist status, which is not a great name. It's very easy to mess that up. You might want to do something different than what I'm doing. All right, and then this variable corresponds to the current name, which is Q252 colon space S and then closed. All right, now we have it like these slashes because we have a space there. All right, so by doing that, what R does, or specifically tidyverse, is that it's saying this should go together. All right, the second one we're going to rename as strong leader, and this is a variable asking about whether the country is better off, or what it would be like if there was a strong leader. So I've kind of fashioned this as and I might not be 100% right, but I see this variable asking sort of support for a authoritarian regime. There's a lot of versions that it could be, but essentially saying, like, you know, is a country better with a single individual that doesn't have to answer to other people? Okay, this current variable is Q235 colon P, sorry, colon space P. Okay, we have that. And then we want, we're going to have a variable called ideology, political ideology. So before I go on, these two variables, these first two, we're going to use these as our two outcome variables. And then the rest of the variables we're going to treat as predictors. Okay, so ideology, this is sort of political ideology, left, right, kind of liberal, conservative type of thing. Okay, and that is currently Q240 colon space L. Next one we're going to rename as responsibility. And this is a question asking whether it is the government's responsibility or people's responsibility to take care of themselves. So this is sort of like a, you know, how much sort of like government's role in people's lives, or, you know, support, you know, how libertarian someone might be. You know, should people take care of themselves, or should government make sure that people that can't take care of themselves for whatever reason are supported? Okay, so that variable is Q108 colon G. Okay, the next one we're going to call confidence. And confidence is this variable as asking how much confidence the people have in the national government. All right, this is currently Q71 colon CO, believe that's right, comma. Now, I want to point something out. So again, right, we said start with the first character and end on the seventh. Now, if you're looking at this, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. The white space here, as it's called in kind of computer land, white space is considered a character. All right, so that's why it's, so if you count that, that's why it's 7. We could get rid of that, actually. Yeah, we could do a version where we like strip out all the white space, but it doesn't necessarily make this less ugly. so yeah, you know, it's whatever you prefer. All right, so confidence, we got that. All right, next one I'm going to call, or we're going to call, hhfin underscore status. And this is asking about people's satisfaction with their household finances. So it's like, how are you doing individually or like within your family economically. Okay, so this would be like pocketbook voting. This is currently Q50 colon space SA. All right, another comma, and then we're going to include age. This is Q262 colon space A. We're going to include sex. This is Q260 colon S, comma, and then lastly is education level. And this is Q275 R colon space. Sorry, it's just so I just feel like it's so insane. Now, you could clearly see, right, like why we want to rename these original variables, because they're insane. All right, so we got that. We're going to rename them. We're not done yet with manipulating these or recoding these. We need to do more. We need to do some more stuff to clean this up. Okay, so one of the issues that we have is that the missing values here in the original data are represented with negative numbers. And so we could, I'm not sure if we could do something on how we read it in, but we're going to do something about it now. And we are going to use a number of different functions here to clean this up. Okay. So let's do this. All right. So we're going to use mutate, which we've seen before. We're going to use a function called across. All right. Across is from dplyr. And what this does is that it applies this recoding to a number of different columns at once. And then we're going to use everything. So there is a function called everything. It'd be great if you just could use it as like it does the work for you, just like I want everything done at once. No. What that means here is apply this recoding across all of the columns. So that's what it does. All right. So we're going to go outside that everything close there. So the first close parenthesis. We're going to do comma and then colon, not colon, sorry, tilde, replace. Now replace is actually from base R. I was trying to get this to work in a as sort of neat, compact way as possible, and I found that function to work the best here. So we're going to use this replace, and then in this specification we're going to say period or dot, and then comma, and that period dot is saying it's referring back to everything else. All right, we're going to say dot x less than 0. So the dot x is saying for all of the different values, or all of the different columns, when it is less than 0, make that NA. All right. So this line here will, in one whole shebang, take all the negative values and set them equal to NA as missing. Okay. We need to make sure that we have the correct number of closed parentheses, which I believe I mentioned this before. RStudio is really nice about that, because once you do an open, it gives you a close right away. that is not always the case. So, all right. Now, we're going to flip two of the variables coding. All right. And we're going to flip confidence and we're going to flip strong leader so that they make more sense. So that, so with confidence, we're flipping it so that the higher values means that someone has more confidence in the government. And then strong leader, we're flipping it so that higher values means that people think that it's a good thing if there's a strong leader. Just so that some of it is more intuitive when we do interpretations and talk about it. So we're going to use mutate again. I'm going to call it the same thing. It's not necessarily best practice, but that's what we're going to do. Okay, we're going to do this these nested functions here, which we've used before. We're going to do as numeric. All right, fct rev, and then as factor confidence. I know that looks crazy, but we've done this before. So it's saying, okay, with the confidence variable, make it a factor, reverse the values, and then make it a numeric. Okay, because we don't want it as a factor. We want it as a numeric. This is just a way to flip the coding that's really easy. All right, so we have going into this 3 open, so we need to go past 3 closed. So right, 1, 2, 3. Okay, this 4th close is in reference to the mutate function, so we're going to do a comma, and then we're going to do the same thing for strong leader. So we have strong leader. It's good to spell. Strong leader equals as numeric, and then fct rev, and then as underscore factor, and then strong leader. Okay, and then this time we're closing the mutate function, so we go outside the 4th one and we're going to do piping to continue to the next line. And then what we're going to do is use the select function to just save the 9 variables that we renamed. So we're going to just include these here. So I default to poly. I don't know why, but I don't know. My brain defaults to that. But status. All right, and then strong leader, ideology. Oh, if I'm gonna put a space, I just put a space. All right, just to be nice, just to look nice. Or you know what? I don't know if that looks nice. Let's close the space. Let's close the space. All right, ideology, responsibility, competence. fin underscore status, age, sex, edu. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, it's a lot going on in this chunk here. Let's highlight it and see if this worked. It did not work. So we did something wrong. Let me see. I thought we had a double. This might just be a single, actually. Because I thought it was double white space, but this is saying right here that it doesn't exist. So it might just be single. Let's try it with just a single white space. Ah, that worked. Okay, so we see up here now we have Kenya subset. Let me pull it a little. And we have the same number of observations, but only 9 variables. So we can take a glimpse at this. Glimpse, Kenya, subset. All right. So we don't have everything in front of us, we don't have the codebook, whatever. But I talk about in the chapter about like downloading the codebook so you know what's actually going on. But we see that we have our NAs. So it looks good. It doesn't look like there's any issues here. All right, so that is it for this video. More to come on this chapter, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.